Hello, everybody, and welcome everybody tuning in from all around the world, from different places, whether you are in France or whatever part of France or UK or US, wherever you're tuning in from. We have a lot of folks tuning in across YouTube right now, LinkedIn, and X. We're going to wait for a bit for everybody to kind of be joining in. And then we're going to do a little intro. So what would be good to see, guys, is where you're from. Just put that in the chat below or in the comment section below. Where are you tuning in from? What do you do? And maybe what is your number one challenge when it comes to, LinkedIn maybe, or cold email, or when it comes to scaling? So we're going to be answering all questions when it comes to scaling email and LinkedIn. I think we have what we call a power combo here in this particular session. So you can ask any sorts of questions when it comes to true scale, what I call. So naturally, when it comes to doing any form of outreach, two things matter. Conversion rate naturally matters. So your ability to convert, essentially engage with prospects, convert them, push them into a meeting, and then creating pipeline and hence closing deals. But the second thing naturally that matters is also the volume piece. And the masters at their craft know how to do both things. So the ability to scale a volume, but also the ability to convert really well. So those are the two things that we're covering in this particular section. We are focusing on cold email, and we are focusing on LinkedIn on two parts. So while everybody's tuning in across different places, so feel free, again, just to recap, jot down below where you're from, what is it that you do at your particular company, and any particular challenges that you do have. And then we're going to be, just feel free just to jot down any questions that you have, and we will take the questions at the end. So I'm going to start the intro with myself, then I'm going to pass over to Frederick, and we have some content for you to show. And then the juiciest part, typically, where you can ask any questions to us live, that's what we're going to tackle for the second part of the session. So my name is Frank. I've been building this company called The Forge, or Salesforge, for about 3 years. We have multiple products. They all specialize in scaling cold email and LinkedIn. We highly focus on companies that have at least 3,000 contacts that they want to reach out to. This actually means 3,000 accounts or companies that you have to, you're trying to reach out to. So the more the merrier, the more you want to use us. So we specialize in what we call true programmatic outbound scale. And we do that today across cold email and LinkedIn. My prior background is working in sales, software sales, for over 10 years. And my last job prior to starting this company was actually leading a sales team of 50, which was the impetus to start this company, because I saw that the only way to scale was more bodies, right? More salespeople. And in this particular section, a lot of the things that we're going to discuss is how to scale more output and still have a very high conversion rate. We're going to have a look at that. So more output, but still at a very high conversion rate, and doing that across email and LinkedIn. So yeah, that's it from me. Frederick, over to you.
So thanks, Frank, and nice to meet you, everyone. So I'm Frederick. I'm the co-founder of Mirror Profile. I can't wait to show you all our knowledge about LinkedIn infrastructure, LinkedIn rules, etc. So that it is a great topics, and of course it's great to do that with Salesforce and Frank, because obviously the synergy between our two tools is quite great. And on my side, to present myself, it's pretty easy, and you will see because a lot of our public is as well a CEO of lead generation agency, because indeed Mirror Profile was a side project at the beginning, because I ran my own lead generation agency since 3-4 years before creating Mirror Profile 4 years ago. And so I know really well your needs and why it's important to have a good LinkedIn infrastructure when you want to scale this channel. So yeah, I'm ready to show you all I know.
Fantastic. As you can hear, Frederick has a French accent. That is because he's from France. France is definitely very close to my heart, because after the US, France is the second best country when it comes to building sales technology. You can see a lot of great companies coming out of France. Not familiar. So you will hear a lot of French accent out there when it comes to facing great sales technology companies. So Mirror Profiles is one of them. And so we use Mirror Profiles naturally. And so we also recommend others to use Mirror Profiles. But generally on the LinkedIn infrastructure front, we're going to dive deeper into this. So let me share the bit of content that we have prepared for you guys. And again, I highly encourage that whatever you see on the screen. Please do jot down the comments below, whether you're tuning in from YouTube, LinkedIn, whatever. It doesn't really matter. And naturally, all the best questions we will take forward and we will answer together, both with Fred. Fred or Frederick. Someone share. Yeah, it's probably the Americans say Fred.
Yeah, it's better.
So having been in sales for such a long time and being able to scale naturally through Salesforce and Mirror Profiles, it is true what we're saying here. You can generate hundreds of replies every single day, and that's exactly what we do today here at Salesforce, and what many of our customers do today. If you're not able to receive hundreds of replies per day, either speak to me, speak to Frederick after the session, speak to our what we call Salesforce experts. There's a bunch of them that know exactly what they're doing, and they're replicating, this sort of system. So, again, quick background on me: over 10 years in B2B sales. Building currently what we call the Salesforce stack. It's a modular build. It's like an Apple ecosystem essentially when it comes to scaling cold email and LinkedIn. Prior to that, I worked at a bunch of different companies, Google, etc. You name it. But really, the main premise of what Salesforce does is to help you scale with the lowest headcount possible. And yeah, over to you, Frederick. 7 years in growth hacking, and 4 years naturally in Mirror Profiles. So yeah, so essentially, as you can see, there's plenty of other things that maybe we can share and talk about, but don't want to be spending too much time on the intros. Let's dive right straight into what we want to chat about. So when it comes to just generally optimizing for your success, these are probably the 5 areas that matter the most across email and LinkedIn. So on one hand, you need infrastructure. So on the side of email, these are definitely secondary domains. These are email accounts, and doing that across multiple email service providers like Google, Microsoft, SMTP, and also doing that across multiple registrars. When it comes to LinkedIn, because it's very, very hard to scale LinkedIn, and this is why Mirror Profiles exists as an example, you also need the infrastructure there. And infrastructure just means having all your employees from your company connected naturally to a software and leveraging the capacity of every single profile, all the way to maybe growth hacking and finding else how to source the profiles, but also naturally having the avatars also in place. Orchestration is the second pillar. So what does this software that you actually use to do outreach at scale, but in a safe manner, in a way that it doesn't actually block your account. So I can comfortably say today, if you have seen my post, let's say yesterday on LinkedIn, that still today we have 0 bans on the profile. So meaning orchestration across email, LinkedIn is super important, but I think a lot of people are very sensitive when it comes to kind of leveraging their own LinkedIn profiles. And I can tell you, having 40 plus employees in my company, we leverage at least 20 plus, real humans in play. So we are definitely feeling comfortable, leveraging our own profiles to engage with our audience. Then targeting matters a lot, so we're going to dive into that, and I have plenty of examples I want to show you guys what sort of things that we're targeting and how multi-channel sequence looks like. Messaging matters a lot, so we're going to look at some of the message examples. So they have to be short and snappy. And then social selling, or how your profiles look like. So essentially warming up your audience also matters a lot. Like, are you actually posting on LinkedIn? How does your profile look like, etc. So we're going to touch on that bit as well. So these are really the 5 areas that you need to invest, or what you call 5 pillars. If you can invest into these 5 areas considerably, you should see success across cold email and LinkedIn. And we're talking about double-digit reply rates. Now, on the infrastructure part, let's start with that. So
yeah, let's go. So I will maybe speak about this first part, Frank, or you want to show?
No, go for it. Go for it.
Yeah, because maybe this setup can be great. I will let you for the first point, and I will check about the student profile, because at the beginning of Mirror Profile, it was that. So it can be great. We speak from a student profile till a rented profile. Okay.
Yeah, sounds good. Let's do that. So when it comes to actually employees, so like doesn't matter how big your company is, whether that's 3 people, 10 people, 40 people, like our case, right? So you want to plug in all the founders, right, by default. And it doesn't matter what the founders do, whether you're CTO, CPO, or in my case, CEO. you want to naturally plug in then the GTM team into a software as well. So you want to connect all the profiles from your team, and the way that you do that nicely is simply by either messaging in a general channel in Slack, or you're literally pinging one by one every employee to see if they would be up for doing it. And naturally, the conversion rate is the highest if you would actually ping a person in Slack, that particular person, and ask them nicely if they would be up for joining the pool of profiles naturally. The pool of profiles, and then and naturally that contributes to the company's success, right? Because ultimately you're able to reach out to more individuals, you're able to get more people onto your demo, etc. And these could be people, whether that's go-to-market team, support team, it could be even engineers, etc. So that's one way to kind of go about this. The other way, naturally, which is where I'm going to stop, and when it comes to infrastructure, is the student profiles, right? So, so just think of it this way: that anybody who doesn't use profiles, what would be the benefit for them to actually connect with an audience out there, right? Whether that's with the CEOs, etc. And in the case of students, right? Because let's say back in my days when I was a student at the University of Southampton in the UK, I wanted really to improve my employability. And if you think about employability and being more employable, that just means ramping up more connections, just generally. But students are typically very lazy to do that, right? Ramping connections, do that manually, etc. So there is this little sort of, let's call it growth hack, or multiple things that we do with universities, where we do onboard students from local universities, and then we help the students to ramp these connections. And in return, what they do is they actually connect with our ICPs, and we're able to engage with them. So naturally, they do become part of our company. We give them a title and everything, and that's one of the ways to growth hack. And there's probably other multiple ways to really growth hack this, but really typically the number one thing is the employee profiles, right, that you're thinking of. But that is never enough. Typically, I would say 9 out of 10 times that is not enough for you to actually make a significant difference when it comes to outreach. Now, when you think about just generally how this works in the world of cold email, naturally in cold email you need secondary domains, email accounts across multiple infrastructures and multiple even domain registrars, right? So this is how it compares then to the world of email. So I'll shut up here, and I'm going to pass over to you, Frederick.
Yeah, of course, on this LinkedIn infrastructure, this first part for me is really, really important. Even if my goal is to rent LinkedIn accounts, it's really important. More and more companies now who generate a lot of leads thanks to LinkedIn, as everyone on their company who do LinkedIn post, for example. Why? Because it's really important for, first, of course, generate leads, but also to recruit, hire more people, etc. So because if indeed if all your employees post for your companies, you spam the LinkedIn content, and of course it's exactly the same when you do ads or something like that, but it's quite free ads or less cheap. So yeah, it's really great to use as well your profile, your accounts on your company. On the student profile, I have some feedback about this part, because before Mirror Profile, it's exactly my strategy. I rent some students, because when I stop the schools, I build my lead generation agency, and of course I need more LinkedIn accounts. So I ask to my colleagues, to my friends, I rent your accounts, but it's too complex to manage. First things, because I lose a lot of time just to explain them how it works. No, it's not risky, etc. So I spend a lot of time on this typical topic, but also to pay them. On my side in France, it's really complicated because I need an invoice. So it's mean I need to explain to them how can they build their own company to just build an invoice. It can be a maze. So it depends where you are based. Okay, if you are not based in France, maybe it can be easier than me. But on this rented profile, indeed. So 4 years ago, when I built Mirror Profile, I tried a lot of solution, but solutions was not a lot professional, because you need to check in Discord, in Telegram, for ID profile, ID verified LinkedIn accounts. But in fact, on my side, there is a lot of reasons why we are specialized in fake LinkedIn accounts. It's because first, you never can check the origin. So you take some legal issues, legal risk. It can be really risky on this part. It can exist, but it's risky. And the most why I don't do that is because 99% come from Africa or Asia. And by definition, people who are able to rent their own identities, their own LinkedIn accounts, they doesn't care at all about LinkedIn. So you receive, if you receive it, because that is another issue. But if you receive it, you will see the quality is quite low. So it's that why we build Mirror Profile, and we are specialized in fake one, but in high quality one. So it means the day one you can synchronize them to Salesforce, for example, to start your outbound campaign. So there is these three things you can do to have more LinkedIn accounts. And of course, the four point is try to do yourself. Try to create a fake accounts. You will see it's on this. You can think it's easy, but really soon you will see it's not easy at all. Normally the ban rate you will have is around 90-95%. On our own side, even if we build 12,000 LinkedIn accounts per month, we have around 70% of ban rate between 0 and 100 connections. So it's normal to lose some LinkedIn accounts before 500 connections. Okay. After that, when you use the right tool, the safe software like Salesforce, normally the ban rate is lower than 5%.
Exactly. Yeah. I think one thing you haven't one thing just to add. Yeah, so there's a huge management with students that we have, for example, right? So we have a few, but not that many, but like still we do have, and we manage them. And yes, there's a management kind of just generally as a thing, whatever, like explaining that, but also naturally students can also leave the pool, which is the other thing, just to be kind of having back of your mind, because it's not like they stick around forever. So there's a bit of a hassle with employees. Naturally, there's less hassle, right? Because but these are the options that typically you have on the infrastructure front. And when it comes to, if you think about, your cold email infrastructure, it's very simple. You just buy domains and email accounts, and if they burn, we replace them, right? So it's kind of very simple thing on the email infrastructure side. But if somebody has any questions on the email for infrastructure side, do let them know. I think the other thing, because so you definitely mentioned this thing around, people want to create their, let's say, secondary accounts. So somebody told me even yesterday, Frank, can I just, create the second account and third account of myself? I said, no, this is not how it works, right? But like I always say, just go and try and get, your two sons in this particular case, right? So I want to scale up. So this is a screenshot literally from somebody booking a demo with us from Reddit. Whether you hear about us, Reddit, and it says, I want to scale up LinkedIn, but I want to use two of my sons' accounts to do outreach on LinkedIn, right? So sure, you can go in, get your relatives, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever that is, your employees and all that stuff. But like, you have to think about how to do this. And I think, there's a bunch of options, and it's important just to be educated on this topic, because I think it's very, very tricky versus like, cold email infrastructure, which is just go get a vendor, right? Buy it and just implement it, right? So,
and the warm-up process as well. So it's mean when you receive an account from your friends, even if you have 100 friends, and I hope you have that, but it can be complicated. If you receive them, don't directly go fast and use all your LinkedIn quota, LinkedIn limits, because in fact you burn them. LinkedIn is not stupid. If they see you do the LinkedIn account doesn't do anything during 1 year, and now they send 25 connection requests, 40 messages per day, etc., they know it's weird. So you need to warm up them. And it's that one on Mirror Profile. We warm up them already for you. It's part of our services. But yeah, this image is really interesting to show you the how I can do say that, but between in 2021, before software tools integrate centralized LinkedIn boxes, integrate AI messages, etc. One SDR can manage 5 LinkedIn accounts, not more. Why not more? It's because one of the key, the most important key to have a good LinkedIn outbound campaign is the reactivity. Don't forget, on LinkedIn, you are on a social platform. So it means as soon as you receive a reply from your leads, you have 1 hour to reply it. Maximum 1 hour. Maybe it's maybe too high for some of your leads. Why? And that it is really different from email. You can reply to your email 1 day, 2 days after, but on LinkedIn, 1 hour maximum. So it's mean if you in 2021, if you give on you to your SDR more than 5 accounts, you will lose reactivity, and that is really painful things. Now, in
I think the other thing I just want to say here is that there's statistics that shows by Gong, which is the number one conversational intelligence platform in the world. Like essentially, if you respond, back to your prospect in longer than 2 hours, the conversion rate massively drops, as in your ability to actually book them into a meeting. But yeah, like you mentioned, like you need to be on the ball, and as in whenever you get a reply, it doesn't matter on LinkedIn, even email, the person is there at the laptop or on their phone, they're active, so you want to be responding very fast. And the way that we're actually looking to solve it actually later this month is we're looking to build a fully autonomous AI reply engine, essentially, that allows you to just fully autonomously reply back or reply essentially in Copilot mode, which just essentially allows you to craft responses much faster, essentially within a second back to the prospect instead of you typing whatever. Naturally becomes you're creating another problem, essentially, the problem of you have a lot of replies coming in, right? So we get like 100 to 500 replies per day, just to give you an idea. So there's a lot of replies coming in, and yes, you have to manage them, right, very fast, or otherwise, what's the point of reaching out to these people if you're being very slow, right? So, so that definitely ping pong, like very fast ping pong back and forth matters, just to qualify whether there's something here between you and the prospect. And then either we're progressing to the next stage of kind of exploring this over demo, etc., or not, right? So which is totally fine as well. So
totally. And don't minimize as well. Today you can see on this image, you can see, okay, my one SDR can manage 30 LinkedIn accounts if you have the good setup. Why? Because in fact, behind Salesforce, behind Mirror Profile, there is a lot of issue we manage for you. For example, the proxy issue, when an account, for example, the double authentication, the PIN code, when we will have the Salesforce integration directly with API, we can communicate with Salesforce to make your onboarding easier, and also your when an account need to be reconnected, for example, etc. All this LinkedIn infrastructure takes a lot of time when you don't have the right tools. But it's that why sometimes it's better, maybe at the beginning, just try with 10 accounts, and more step by step you will increase. Because why? Because even you SDR, you can learn to him how he can reply fast and with relevant reply to generate more and more leads. So ROI is really important on this topic, because with email and LinkedIn, the cost infrastructure can be high. So you need to find your ROI before scale a lot. But with us, you have the possibility to scale. Before, you can't scale LinkedIn.
Oh, you can through more bodies, right? Through hiring more people.
Yeah, we'll hire someone. But
you can hire 30 people today, right? So, and look at that cost and versus, getting profiles. So I think I'm going to give one example from a customer call, a few weeks back. He said that he's purely hiring SDRs in different parts of the world just to get their LinkedIn profile. And that was the only interest that they had, is just their LinkedIn profile, nothing else. And that's not really the right way to look at things. Let's just hire more and more people. And like, really, if we're driving majority of our success on LinkedIn, an email, let's just get more of the bodies, right? That used to be the logic like a long time ago. Today, that's not the logic. So just to give an idea, when I had a sales team of 50 people back in my days 3 years ago at a company called Watergraph, yes, we were like exactly this was the sort of the system that is being described here. But today, the 5 people that I have on my team, 6 people that I have on my team, they produce more output today than 50 people back then, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
This is how times have massively changed, versus sort of 3 years ago. And so if anybody is hiring, more bodies, just simply, just to, to increase output levels, you don't have to do that necessarily today. So there's definitely a more efficient way to be able to do that.
So yeah, because we speak about a lot about to have several LinkedIn accounts, but why? In fact, sometimes someone cannot know that, because in fact, the first why when I build Mirror Profile, it's because when I had some customer who had some SDR who didn't want to use their own LinkedIn accounts to prospect for their companies. That was the first why on Mirror Profile. Today, of course, the first why is to bypass LinkedIn quota. More accounts equal more volume. You can send, for example, with one LinkedIn account, you can send 25 connection requests per day. So, of course, if you have 10 LinkedIn accounts, you can send to 250 connection requests per day. So that it is pretty obvious. As well, if you don't want to use your LinkedIn accounts or the LinkedIn accounts of your colleagues, with this kind of solution, you can deploy several LinkedIn accounts, even if you don't want to use your own LinkedIn accounts. And that is the third why. It's when you use a student profile, when you use one of your SDR LinkedIn accounts, etc. If your SDR leaves your company, if student wants to take back his LinkedIn accounts, in fact, you can lose everything you do on their LinkedIn accounts. That's why it's really important to have as well a CRM with this kind of strategy. But with Mirror Profile, in fact, if you have your subscription active, you keep the LinkedIn accounts. And so, for example, we have some customer who are a customer who has with the same account since 4 years. So they keep all their candidates and leads, of course, and that is really important.
Yeah, so like in the way that it compares to cold email world, you don't want to send any cold emails at scale from your primary business domain, right? So this is why you're getting these secondary email domains and email accounts, right? To protect your primary, but also to improve the deliverability and everything. But the other thing, kind of just to mention, so let's take an example. You are in sales, right? So you build up all that network, right? With this particular company, etc. And then you leave, the company, the network also goes. But when you have access or permanent access to the LinkedIn infrastructure, essentially the way I look at it is that network builds up over time, right? So you can think about naturally inviting people into, I don't know, a webinar maybe like this one, right? So or doing something else, right? You don't have to necessarily always push for a demos per se. There's other things that you could do that drives value for your business, and that network, you connecting with different people, naturally sticks around for considerable amount of time and it's permanent essentially, right? So
But by the way, because we spoke about LinkedIn quota, if you want to have the entire list on LinkedIn quota, you can go on my website with our rules page. We centralize all our knowledge on LinkedIn algorithm on this page. So you will have visit profile, how many visit profile we advise to keep your account safe, etc. How many LinkedIn posts per week, etc. So it can be interesting. It depends of your use case, of course, on LinkedIn. On this last part about LinkedIn phrase structure, I will show you really fast how customer dashboard. Why? Because it's important to have in mind we are based in France. So most of our customers now are based in United States. So of course the time zone is not great for them, and it's that why we build the LinkedIn how customer dashboard to manage around 80% of current issue you can have with LinkedIn accounts. So I will share my screen, partager l'écran. Hop. OK. Tell me, Frank, if it is
Yeah.
work well. Yeah. Okay, great. So here you have. I will show you really fast. Imagine you have 5 European accounts, so you will see them on this page. But you can, for example, if you want to launch Marie Bertrand, so you click on launch session. So we use GoLogin. It is an anti-detect browser. It's technical things, but is for keep your account safe, technologically speaking. But you are directly connected after that on LinkedIn. But imagine if you have an issue, GoLogin displays proxy is too slow, proxy error, or something like that. You can handle that directly here. Okay, test the proxy. It will be red. So here it's great, but if it is red, automatically it will fix it. So it's important to have in mind behind each button there is automation things to make your LinkedIn management easier. And if you don't have, if you have any question, of course we have a customer support on that. And if you need to reconnect on Salesforce for any reasons, you can do it through your customer dashboard. The other things really important to have in mind is this team feature. Why? Because thanks to that, you can share the access to on LinkedIn accounts to anyone, but you can share to specific LinkedIn accounts to specific guy. For example, if you manage an agency, you can centralize all LinkedIn accounts on your subscription, and after that, share to your customers 3, 4 LinkedIn accounts, etc. So you can organize and manage your LinkedIn infrastructure thanks to our customer dashboard. So that's it. I want to show you really quickly. Of course, if you want more details about that, you can take a demo with me or with my colleague for a complete demo of Mirror Profile, a customer dashboard.
Cool. Thanks, Ferry, for that. All righty, let's continue on. So again, just a quick recap, guys. If you have any questions, please put them in the comment section below. We're gonna take questions at the end.
Frank, maybe one thing about proxy, because it's a regular questions we have. Proxy, we use 4G mobile proxy, not residential one. So that can be, it's why we do that. It's on, you will see, for example, Salesforce maybe use more residential proxy for the fast internet speed. On my side, I will prefer 4G mobile proxy for the safe things. So it's really why it's really important to work with tools like Salesforce and Mirror Profile. It's because we challenge ourselves about our decisions. So for example, with Salesforce, we accept easily because it is a safe software, the residential proxy. Because for some software, we don't accept using their own residential proxy because the quality of an IP is really, really important for LinkedIn, for the safety to avoid any bans, etc. So it's that why Salesforce is different than other LinkedIn automation tools about safety things. And in 2026, if you want to scale this channel, safety is really important.
Yeah, the proxy is naturally compared to IPs on the infrastructure front. So we manage now 4 infrastructures ourselves across 3 domain registrars. So it's kind of similar kind of thought process, but there on the IP front, when it comes to cold email infrastructure, the recommendation here is just generally to send emails if it comes to just mailboxes across more than one infrastructure. So typically, let's say today you want to get Google Workspace accounts. And you want to combine that with an SMTP shared solution. So we have one called MailForge. Like ultimately, you want to send across at least 2 domain registrars and 2 sets of ESPs, essentially. So Google Workspace accounts and SMTP accounts, as an example. And that means 2 domain registrars in play, 2 infrastructures in play, and this is a good setup just generally on when it comes to kind of thinking about IPs and how to send better emails, rather than just putting all your eggs in one basket and putting, let's say, just going with Google Workspace accounts or just going with this infrastructure. So this is how, maybe it compares, sort of LinkedIn world to email world. All right, now we're going to move over to another part here. What also matters, right, to make sure you have great standing on LinkedIn and you have great performance generally. And that's, how your LinkedIn profile sort of looks like and kind of optimizing towards that. So I'm going to whiz through briefly, but above default is what matters the most, as in this is where you get 80% of the traffic on LinkedIn, which is what do you see there at the top, and all of that really needs to be optimized. So from having a proper banner, essentially in explaining what you do and what you can offer to your audience, having a professional profile pic with a beautiful smile. So these are typically what's called the American headshots, style. You always have to have a smile. If you don't have a smile, I highly recommend you guys to change your profile picture and have a smile on your headshot. Headline has to have at least 2 lines, in terms of what you do, and other things, multiple things that you do essentially potentially in your life. So let's say, like I personally prefer to have something funny on it. So I would typically say, I help you to bring home more bacon. I'm also the CEO, right? Naturally, right? And just kind of your general offering. But a couple of lines in the headline is what I would typically recommend to do. Location matters a lot, right? So it's something that Frederick has mentioned, where you are based in the world. On that basis, people are more likely or less likely to connect with you. So the distance does matter. And typically, from what we're seeing, conversations that we're seeing and having been in sales for over 10 years, I would say more or less people like to connect, let's say US, Canada, and the European kind of, realm, let's call it that way. These folks like to connect with each other, right? And whenever connections come outside of Europe, US, and Canada, then people are more varied in terms of kind of, do they want to connect with people from outside those regions? So it's just something that you have to have at the back of your mind. And if you are in some, interesting part, let's call it even of Europe, you may want to consider changing your location to London, Amsterdam, etc. And trust me, that has a positive impact to your overall performance. So location does matter on LinkedIn where it's based. You want to have at least 500 plus connections on LinkedIn. At that point, you become what's called a somebody. You're literally like a nobody below 500. So you want to ramp to that North Star essentially. And then the other thing I recommend if you're having LinkedIn Sales Nav is also have a custom link to your page, and that typically leads to like a lead magnet. It could be also like a newsletter as well that leads to. But essentially, what do you want people to do? You don't just want them to check out your site, but you want them to convert, right? In the next step of the funnel. So the link, right? So it says show the agent Frank magic. I'm leading them to the lead magnet onto the site. Now I have a different one, but it's just kind of to give you an idea. So send them into the right place so they can kind of progress through the journey. And then bonus emoji for a visual recall or brand recall is very important. So typically folks know me as Mr. Bacon and whatever. So, and I highly also recommend to you guys to think about this as in what sort of emoji you could add to your profile. And then the final thing is about sort of, have an easier name. So like we have the example of Frederick, right? So it's a bit of a longer name. So it's not Frederick, but you want to call him Fred really, right? So it just has to something much easier, faster. So typically 4 or 5 letters is like really optimal. If your name is like super long, like Alexander, well, really you want to cut it short and want to make sure you're Alex on LinkedIn. And also, if you have any names that are very hard to pronounce, again, you want to maybe give yourself a nickname, which is a very typical thing to do in countries like China, right? So in China, you have very difficult names to pronounce, and people just give themselves a name like Cindy, whatever, Sandy, and so on and so forth. That's just, just an example of what you want to do to make it easier for the other person to talk to you. Anything that I missed, you think, Frederick, on here?
No, it's really interesting because indeed, I am just go further than that. When you send connection request, in fact, you see only 3 information: picture, headline, and first name, last name. So in fact, if you need to do a choice because you don't have a lot of time, by priority, use indeed a good profile picture. We are not stupid. I think we rent around 90% of woman accounts instead of men accounts because woman has better acceptance rate, etc. And the profile picture, like Frank said, we produced a picture, we smile. It's really important just to have a good acceptance rate. The only things maybe you need to think about that, I don't sure about a name because in fact, if you change your name in LinkedIn profile, on one of my rules, the first rule we have is to not change first name, last name to avoid, as LinkedIn asks, verify your identity. So if you change your first name, maybe if you provide your own ID and you don't have the same first name, it can be a risk. But I'm not sure. I never try, to be honest. We prefer never change first name, last name. It's better. Maybe there is an option. I'm not sure about that, Frank, but maybe there is an option in LinkedIn to add a nickname. No, I'm not sure about
there
this.
was. I don't remember, but yeah, I think there was. But
Okay.
yeah, like I had an employee joining recently as well, and he also had a very tricky name. And I did ask him to shorten the name to literally 4 letters, but before that it was like 10 letters, I believe, in the name. It was very hard to pronounce name, and I told him to change his name as well. And so he had nothing triggered, and he just went and changed it. But I think there is a way to have a nickname. I think in the settings section. So
yeah,
cool. So then, we discussed a lot about infrastructure, the setup, and how to think about it. We're going to go into other parts, of what needs to happen. But a lot of people ask me, Frank, does LinkedIn actually work? I'm going to do all this work. What am I going to get in return? So here are 3 different LinkedIn automation softwares, UIs of those that, we know how they look like that. And we want to verify, does it actually work? And the answer is, yes, it works. In different UIs, you can see good performance generally overall. But what you can expect, I think, typically from what we see in terms of the data, is that when you do proper targeting and copy and profiles are optimized and everything, we would typically expect 40 to 60% acceptance rate. And then we do always pretty much expect double-digit reply rates. So you can see at the top, Salesforce and the performance there, and then you can see at the bottom a couple other softwares. But like ultimately at scale, so that means we have statistical significance. We can say confidently that LinkedIn does work in the outreach. And to compare that to email, on email, for every positive reply that you're going to get from your prospects, you're going to get 5 replies on LinkedIn. So email, yes, can be scaled maybe much better and much more scalably because you should buy more domains and mailboxes. But you can naturally, to an extent, also scale LinkedIn. And if you have a very small TAM, like every touch point matters. But in the larger TAM, maybe the way that I would kind of think about it is, let's say you have hundreds of thousands of businesses to potentially to reach out, right? So you definitely want to scale through cold email infrastructure. Right, first and foremost. But for the key accounts, right, in particular, I would blend their LinkedIn and also cold email. So if it comes to combining both, what sort of performance are we seeing? Here is, my real campaigns that I'm currently running right now. You can see how many profiles I have on the left-hand side. What is the progression? How many contacts? What are the reply rates overall? Positive rates? What is the LinkedIn connection acceptance rate? Reply rates on LinkedIn, and also then on email. So one thing I mentioned is the targeting, right? So what targeting options do you typically have access to? So on email, so this also naturally applies to email, but there's more targeting options even on LinkedIn, right? So some of these things we do run, and I'm going to show you real examples. So on one hand, what you can do is extract company followers of your competitors, your own company, adjacent company, and I'm going to show you some of the examples there. You can also extract post likers and commenters. You can also build a list on Sales Navigators. And I think one tip here is that the best lists are the ones where the filter is they posted something in the last 30 days. That means they're active on LinkedIn, and these people are typically more likely to engage. And this is super important, particularly in the cases where you have a very, very large list, and you're not really sure who to reach out in that large list on Sales Navigator. And typically that filter is the best filter to use because it will generate you the highest number of replies. LinkedIn groups, in particular of competitors. So I go and sniff out all my competitor LinkedIn groups. These are also good. Either they're interested in the topic or competitor groups, etc. Webinar attendees. So you can go and extract attendees of this webinar on LinkedIn and reach out. Then use tools like Jungler for social listening. So we're tracking mentions of competitors, maybe particular pain points that are being solved, etc. So there are tools that do essentially what's called social listening on LinkedIn. And there's quite a few of them in the market. We use Jungler ourselves right now, and it works pretty nice. It pushes into Slack, but also it pushes into Salesforce for us to automatically execute. And then there are website de-anonymization tools. So for example, tools like RB2B, Vector. There's so many de-anonymization tools out there. that can be used. And I typically recommend to use 2 or 3 tools just to maximize what's called the coverage, so how many leads you identify from traffic. And by the way, that only works in the US, so with the US traffic only. So if you use like at least these 3 lists on top of like generically pulling, data from like a database, it works like magically well. The other thing that I mentioned last week, I did a session with another person. You can also do target lookalikes, for example, so similar companies of close won accounts. That's a really good targeting. And then also naturally do also a lot of that's called signal-based outreach, and there's a lot of different signals from hiring signals, so people hiring people, for example, where we would say stop hiring. That would be our subject line on email. Because we would say, there's a better way to do the things, rather than just hiring more and more bodies.
Yeah.
There are fundraising signals, there's other signals, and there's custom signals that you can build. I'm a big fan of custom signals because all the default signals, if everybody has access to them, then that becomes a commodity, and that means everybody's using the same signals, so the efficiencies, actually massively drop if everybody's using the same signals. But these are the typical options that I would recommend of what a good list looks like. If you want to pull company followers on LinkedIn, you can go to leadsforge.ai and you can extract our followers if you want to. So that's one possibility to do that. If you're looking to do large-scale extractions, I recommend an agency. You can ping me about it. They could extract hundreds of thousands, millions of followers of different pages. Now, when it comes to messaging, before I'm going to show some examples, this is what really, top rules sort of for messaging. Never pitch tap in the first message. 2 best case, 3 worst case LinkedIn message steps. So really you want to only have 2 messages being fired, because otherwise people can report you, disconnect you, etc. Short and snappy, ideally 2 sentences. So the shorter the snappier, the better. Follow-up message 1 and 2 always should focus on another angle, another pain point, or just literally another angle, right? So you're not asking, what do you think about it? Any thoughts? No bumps, essentially, when it comes to the follow-up messages. So this particularly, applies on LinkedIn. Then lead with an open-ended question. Think like you're not talking to somebody at the bar or a conference, right? So don't send, for example, on LinkedIn a message that looks like an email, right? A lot of people make that very, very big mistake. They even put a signature there, etc. Don't do that. The other thing that you can do is test voice notes. So there's a bunch of tools out there where you can launch voice notes. We're also launching voice notes next month, as an example. And the other thing to think about is launching also videos. Videos also work really well. So there's tools like SenseSpark, for example, to do that. And then you can also provide some value, like, sometimes, sharing, let's say, growth hack, a checklist, and so on and so forth. That also can work really well. Essentially, trying to be helpful with your ideal customer. And on LinkedIn, don't say things like, don't sign off with like best regard, best whatever, something I mentioned. No signature. Just keep it short and snappy. That's what you want to do on LinkedIn. If you want to kind of dive deeper in terms of how to do cold emails, like really well, there's a whole session that I did a few weeks back, and it's on our YouTube channel. Now, let's look at some message examples. So let's do that and a bit of showtime. So this is SalesForge. So this is a sequence builder. So ability to build campaigns. We're targeting SaaS Europe and founders and C-levels. So because we have 30 plus LinkedIn profiles in play, I like to start with LinkedIn. And what I typically like to start to do is just a view profile, like the latest post, send a blank connection request, wait for 14 days to accept, have a couple of initial messages where I'm testing the copy, and then view profile again, and maybe the follow-up, right? And then if the person did not accept within a couple of weeks, we want to send them an email. It could be also a couple of emails as well, like I mentioned. So two touch points per channel is pretty good. And then if the person did not respond an email, we want to send an in-mail. Right? And then the other thing you want to do to make sure these profiles are always healthy is you want to withdraw the connection request. So it's something that you want to do always programmatically, so you don't have many pending connection requests hanging there, because that can also negatively impact your LinkedIn profile. Now, when it comes to LinkedIn, so we are using profiles naturally of my team. So my profile isn't being used in this particular sequence. But we're reaching out to SaaS leaders essentially, and this is how an example of a copy looks like. You can read it yourself, but it's a slightly longer one in this particular case, but you can see the angle that I'm kind of going with here. Essentially, I'm inviting people to connect with me, to connect with Frank, right? And book essentially meetings into my calendar. And that's one of the variants that we're testing here. There is another one that we're testing here. Thanks for the accept. And so you can see we're talking a lot about top line growth. We're talking about CAC and so on and so forth. And then we have also naturally a follow-up message, right, to that, which is a bit different, right? So we actually made it on purpose a typo in the first email, right, and we're correcting ourselves. So this is something that we would orchestrate as a sequence. And then on the email, naturally emails look differently, where you naturally have to have a subject line, right? But still, emails are like short and snappy. And what you see in here, and we're also having on purpose a typo in here. So that's something that we do on purpose because it just looks a lot more human. It's just our style of doing things. And then an in-mail, right? So we're following up with in-mail. And again, that's an in-mail example. Right, so that's all I want to show in this sequence. Let's move over to another sequence example. So in this particular case, we are targeting our B2B followers. And our B2B is a de-anonymization tool. So we extracted our B2B followers from LinkedIn on LeadsForge. And again, we are viewing the profile, sending just a blank connection request, which, as I mentioned, works much better. And we then have 3 variants that we're testing when it comes to messaging. And we have a couple of follow-up messages variants as well in there. And what we just, because we integrated natively with our B2B as an example, we're just asking, hey, do you by any chance use our B2B by Adam Robinson, right? So, and if they do, we're like, have you ever considered integrating with Salesforce, and launching, LinkedIn and email campaigns doing that, right? So that's an example. And so they're very similar here. And then there's a follow-up message, why is it, why we reached out, so this is our copy and how it looks like. And so very conversational, as you can see. And then here we're just doing an in-mail message in this particular case rather than having an email, but you can actually do email as well. And so this is how an email would look like, right? So we're sending our B2B to Salesforce, right? So pushing that, and we're just asking a question whether they use our B2B right now. You can see we have a couple email steps here. And if the email bounces, then we're progressing. We're just liking the post, so this is the setup here in this particular sequence. So this is targeting naturally company followers. The other example is we extract webinars of either competitors or people that are interested about lead gen, etc. So it's kind of very similar, sequence. So as you can see, I again start with LinkedIn. And then when it comes to this, then good to connect. What's your favorite multi-channel outreach platform at this moment? I bet it's the one that integrates with Clay, no? So this is a webinar by Multi-Channel Tool, and we're reaching out to them to ask, what's your top favorite, multi-channel platform right now? And that's it. So you're trying to start a conversation, really. And here, kind of similar, well, not similar, maybe, yeah, it's slightly different angle, but the subject line here on the email is just reply rates, right? If they would want to see that. And that's an example here. And then that's it. And then the last sequence I want to show quickly is extracting commenters and likers of big influencers, particularly the influencers where the company or the competitor decided to even sponsor these influencers with thought leadership ads, right? So then they get like hundreds and thousands of likes and comments on these posts, or even lead magnets where you can extract the commenters and likers. And again, we're starting with blank connection request. We're waiting here for 7 days to be accepted. And we're then asking a question in there. We then have a follow-up, right? And then we have an email, right? So, but this is an example of targeting. And then the question always relates to the post. So whatever was discussed in the post, that's what the question relates to. So if it's about AI agents, then we're going to ask a question about AI agents, right? Have you considered, ever using AI agents and stuff like that? So, and that's pretty much it. So these are, a few examples here just to inspire. And then, yeah, let's dive right into a bunch of different questions that we have. And so let's have a look. So there's a few questions here. So James Brooks is asking a question. I think this has to do with profiles. So within Europe, can you choose the location on the profiles?
Yeah, of course. LinkedIn, it is an American company, so Europe is the same country for them. So you can of course use a French guy, for example, a French account, and move to UK or to Spain or to Germany, whatever. It's not a big deal. It works. So don't be ask us a list. You can ask us a list just to select first name, last name. It can be great, but yeah, you can change the localization.
Excellent. Next one. Can you use the render profiles to post or repurpose content?
Yeah, of course. And more than that, I advise you to do that. It's great because you give some strength to your own LinkedIn post, but as well you increase the credibility of your rented LinkedIn accounts. So yeah, do that, and it's really important to do as well LinkedIn content. If you can do that, it's great, because if you can do outbound campaign through Salesforce and one LinkedIn post per week or every 2 weeks is great.
We're actually looking to build that, by the way, content as part of a sequence. So watch that space, guys.
Nice.
Yes. Does the profile have to be verified? I assume it's about the render profile. No, and I think even my profile is not verified, as you have seen in the screenshot. It's still not verified. So the answer is no. Have you seen any benefits from being verified?
No, to be honest, we tried 4 years ago when we think how we specialize in fake one, we use ID verified, etc. But in fact, the difference is there is no difference, because you need to warm up them if they are ID verified or no. And like I said at the beginning of this webinar, when you use an ID verified account, you take a legal risk as well. When you use fake one, you are against LinkedIn policy. So it's not a big deal. If you automate LinkedIn, you are against LinkedIn policy. So it's better to do that.
Question by Renita: what if your 30K limit of full connections is full? What if it's full?
I can give you one if you reach this limit. For example, the biggest LinkedIn accounts we have has 22,000 LinkedIn accounts, and we built it 5 years ago, so before Mirror Profile. So if you reach 30,000 with one of my profile, I will give you one if you want.
Fantastic. So a question here by there's a questions about AI agents. Yes, you can use the LinkedIn profiles for AI agent. So we have an agent called Agent Frank, where you can also use the profiles if you need to. So that was a question on there quickly. And I'm just checking other questions. Yeah, so maybe here's the final one that we're gonna wrap by James again. So Frank, do you comment daily on other posts, and is it an effective way to generate more connections? So fun fact is that some people really aggressively do comments, like they do really good comments, funny comments just can go viral. Because if you comment within 10 minutes of another person's post, literally like 5-10 minutes, and you can see that post gonna go viral, you're gonna get a lot of reach on that particular comment. So yes, commenting is important, because there's definitely strong correlation between if you have reach and visibility, right, through your own post and through doing really good comments. So on commenting in particular, there's a cool tool called Extrovert, I believe it's called. And this is where you can do, let's call it comments strategically on specific accounts. So I think on smaller total addressable markets, it makes sense. It doesn't make sense in my case, because my time is huge, millions of businesses that I could reach out to, right? And I'm doing 500 plus demos, thousands of emails, thousands of whatever connection requests per week. It's just not something that I'm thinking of, commenting on my ICPs or my ideal customers, profiles. But I do comment to like people that have much bigger reach than I do. So for example, Adam Robinson and many other people, I click the notification bell, and whenever the post goes live, like I'm trying to immediately within 5 minutes, if I can see it's going to go viral, I'm trying to put like a very thoughtful comment on that to generate a lot of reach. Because naturally, if you have a strong presence on LinkedIn, you're strong on social media, essentially, right? When it comes to then doing the outreach, because you have warmed up the audience and they've seen a lot of your content, the conversion rates are through the roof then in that case, right? So you definitely can help your LinkedIn profiles and cold email infrastructure, that you have in place to do a better job. So warming up your audience consistently is super important, because naturally then the any kind of negative signals that are going to happen against the infrastructure also reduces massively, because you have a strong presence, right? So there's just something to kind of think about. Well, then there's another question. Which email infrastructure provider do you recommend? Well, naturally, by the one by the Forge. You can just go to salesforge.ai and you can go to product section and you can see infrastructure products in there. We offer 3 different domain registrars and 4 different email infrastructure solutions. If you have any questions, just feel free to pop into chat. There are real humans there that can answer questions. And yeah, so we're going to wrap here just literally on time. If you had any questions for Frederick and me, naturally, you can find us on LinkedIn. Or you can find us on the website in chat as well. I think we're all available there. Guys, if you enjoyed this, please leave a thumbs up or likes wherever you are. That would be much appreciated. And otherwise, we shall see you around. And we will be naturally following up with each and one of you because you sign up to the webinar. We have a list. And we will knock on your doors and saying, hey, here's the recording for you. Because I know there's a lot of questions that we had, in the comment section. Will there be recording? Yes, there will be recording. And we will follow up. So yeah, thank you so much, Frederick. Thank you, everybody. And take care.
Thank you.